I was wondering if you take time sometimes to pause a little bit. Do you pause enough? Because I do believe that if we take time to pause what we're doing, what we're learning, when we are teaching or when we're leading, I think that's the best way to be able to share what we know and for people to feel comfortable around us. I think that's quite important. So let's see. Today, my name is Alain Faber, and I've been a teacher for more than 25 years. And I'm here on this podcast a few minutes late because I was doing some errands and I was thinking that taking time to pause to learn is amazing. And you'll see, I'm going to start with this first segment about learning. And if you're new to my channel, you'll see that the second segment will be about teaching, and the third segment is about leading. So let's see. First of all, let's double check to make sure that we do have sound. We have sound, so we're ready to go. So right now I am going through my spring break in Ontario, and it is quite important for me because it allows me to pause all the things I need to do at school in the way I prepare lessons, in the way I prepare my day, as well as how I spend each of my day. And that's refreshing. And let's see if we can talk about that a little bit. So first of all, if you're thinking about learning, pausing is such an important part because when we learn different ways. Some of us need to see what we're learning. Some other people need to hear about it. Other people need to talk. And by talking, they are getting to know the information. For other people, it is to play with their hands. For other people, they need to be in a social setting. For others, they need to be by themselves so they can reflect on what they're learning. But keep in mind that for all of these possibilities to learn, taking pauses is quite important. So let me tell you why. If you are listening to a lesson or listening to a show, having pause is important because it allows you to be able to catch up on the thought, catch up on what's being said, so that you have a better understanding of the topic being talked about. If you are kinesthetic, so if you like someone to play with their hands to be able to learn, what happens is that that person needs some time to figure things out as they are doing the activity. So if you think of someone playing soccer, playing foot, same thing. You have someone who's playing on the field, but every so often they need to stop, and they stop at the ball. They look around to make a decision before they move forward. So that's quite important. For people that need to listen, they're listening to ideas and they need to pause. For people seeing as well, if you are watching videos at twice the speed because you want to see things faster, at some point your brain still needs sometimes to pause so they can actually absorb the information to make it their own. In learning, it's quite important. In my class, when I have my class is about 75 minutes, and in the middle of the class, I always give 5-minute break for everybody, including me. The reason why I need a break is that sometimes by sharing things to the class, I need to regroup and see where I want to get the class going. Because sometimes classes, depending on the days, depending on what's happening outside of school, I need to make sure that I need to assess what's being done. And second, for students, that's the same thing. They are in the learning environment, and having a pause gives them a chance to take care of all these little things that are important to them. Either talking to a friend about a topic, asking a friend to clarify something about the lesson, coming to see me to ask questions, or going to the washroom. And what happened is that giving that 5-minute break brings down the tension. And I've always feel that students are more receptive in the learning after we have a 5-minute break. So that's one of my trick every day. Now, in teaching, if it's my second segment here, why as a teacher you need to have pauses when you are doing your lessons? Well, there's a few things for that. First, if you are the only one guiding the lesson, what happens is that the other person is trying to follow what you're doing, what you want them to do. But at some point, some people may get overwhelmed in the situation. And by giving a pause, so the teacher stops for a moment, sometimes it's just 3 seconds. It allows people to say, okay, I just caught up what I needed to do. And then again, they are more receptive. And as teachers, you need to give pauses because that's when you notice in the eyes if people are knowing what's going on, if they feel overwhelmed, if sometimes there's a class you just lost them completely. And then you have to say, okay, let's see if we can take a pause, and then let's see if we can do it again in a different way. Because when you prepare a lesson as a teacher or as a trainer, in your mind you visualize what should happen, but in reality it's never as it should happen. It is always as it happens, and therefore little pause as a teacher is quite important because it gives you a chance to think of examples that you can remember. So usually when I give sometimes a 3-minute pause, gives me a chance to say, oh, I have a story when I was a geologist that I can add to what I'm saying. Or, oh, I remember a movie I saw, a short video, something I saw in the hallway. And that is allowing me to take what I think should happen, bring in just like salt and pepper when you're doing some cooking to make sure that your lesson is nice. So I do believe in doing that. And as a teacher, if you don't take pauses, then the learners will never know that pauses are acceptable. And so I'm doing a class on on communication technology in business. And every so often I say, okay, when I do a presentation, I do a pause and I tell them when I give a pause, sometimes I ask a question and then I count to 5. And with my fingers, I count to 5. So 5 seconds to give a chance to the students to answer, and they see the gesture. And I've noticed that their presentation skills are getting better that way because they are learning to ask questions to the audience and then give the audience a chance to think about the question and then have a good answer to that. So I do think that it is important. And my third segment tonight is about leadership. So why, as a leader, do you need to allow for pauses in the way you lead to help your team, to help your community? So let's see if I can give you some examples. As a leader, if you're a person that is always telling others what to do and how to do it, it gives them a chance to see that you are a micromanager because you're always there with them to do the work with them. However, the difficulties with that is that if you micromanage, you never give a chance to your team to take responsibility for the projects that need to happen. So that means that you are, for example, proposing an idea, and then you say, anybody would like to give me some input about this idea? And then you can wait. It can take 5-10 seconds. And even you can ask the question the day before a meeting so that when people go to the meeting, they had a chance to think about what they want to say. Because if you don't give time for pauses, what happens is that people are just catching up all the time. They never have a chance to have original ideas. And therefore, some of them can, but if they are thinking of ideas, that means they're not listening to you anymore, or they're not focusing at the present moment. So there you go. So as a leader in your community, in your family, asking questions, making sure there's a pause, allows people to feel comfortable. I do believe that it's important. So for example, when I call my parents, we have a chat, we talk for 5-10 minutes. And often in the call, there's always a moment where, there's like a 5 seconds where no one is talking, and then the conversation starts again. And it's like a heartbeat in the conversation. Same thing if you are leading a community, your family, or any other groups. Giving a chance for people, giving pauses for people around you allows them to feel that they are allowed to give input. So these are the topics I have for you today. First one is pausing when you are learning is important. So if you're learning something in a book, watching a video, or in an environment where you are learning something, give yourself a chance to have a pause, take a moment to regroup before you continue. What happens is that it allows you to have new ideas, and I think it's important. As a teacher, same thing. As you teach, you want to make sure that you give a chance for people in your class, as a trainer, for your trainees to appreciate the pauses, because students and learners appreciate the pauses because then they have a chance to listen to their inner voice so that they can be part of what's happening in the lesson. And for a leader, that's the same thing. If you don't give a chance for your team to have pauses, what happens is that it is the same thing as you being a micromanager and telling everybody what to do all the time. They end up noticing, and then it's much harder to have some input. So that's something to keep in mind. I was listening to a video by Dan Martell today, and he was saying that if you are part of a group, you can tell people everything all the time what to do because it's much faster at the moment. But in the long term, it's not faster because people are expecting you to tell them what to do. So even though you're part of a team, you are a teacher, part of a class, or as a learner, same thing, you need to appreciate that you need to appreciate the pauses so that people can have questions, or you want to welcome people's input so that in the long run, they can become independent and grow the team. And these are the topics I have for you today. Thank you very much for joining me on this podcast today. I started a bit later today because I was on the road and there was traffic. That happens, but I'm very happy to have shared these moments with you. If you have any ideas on why pauses are so important for you when you learn, when you teach, or when you lead, put your comments in the comments below. I always love to read them, and I respond to them as well. On this, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. And that was a very nice session for us today.